Good morning, River Rocks. Jeremy here, and today we're going to be discussing Mark 13:24 through 27. Now, just a quick recap of some things we've learned from chapter 13. Jesus told us not to be deceived, for many will come in his name claiming, "I am he," and they will deceive many. He also tells us there will be wars and rumors of wars. But he also says not to be troubled, for such things must happen. But the end is not yet. Now let's go over the verses. Mark 13:24 through 27 says, "But in those days, after that tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars of heaven will fall, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. And then he will send his angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the furthest part of the earth to the furthest part of heaven." This is all referenced in Old Testament as well, in books like Isaiah 13:10 or Joel 2:31, where they both talk about the sun turning dark and the moon not putting out light. It also talks in Daniel 7:13 through 14 about the Son of Man coming on the clouds to receive dominion and glory. So there's plenty of reference leading us to believe that it will go down just as Jesus tells us it will. Now let's reflect a little on what he's telling us. Jesus speaks of the darkened sun and falling stars. This symbolizes the upheaval and chaos that will precede Jesus' return. It reminds us of the temporary nature of the world and the certainty of God's judgment. It talks about the Son of Man coming in glory. Jesus' return will be unmistakable and majestic, just as he ascended to the clouds in Acts 1:9 through 11. He will return with power and glory to establish his kingdom on earth. He also talks about the gathering of the elect. Jesus will gather his chosen ones from all corners of the earth. This assures us of God's faithfulness to those who belong to him, regardless of their location or circumstance. With all that being said, I believe this is not only assuring us of God's faithfulness, but is also telling us to stay alert. Just as Jesus urged his disciples to stay awake and alert, we are called to live with a sense of expectation and readiness. Let's not get caught off guard by the cares and distractions of the world. It tells us trusting God's promise. In the midst of uncertainty and turmoil, we can find assurances in God's promises. Just as he fulfilled his promise of the first coming of Christ, he will fulfill the promise of his second coming. And be a light in the darkness. As we await Christ's return, let's become the hope and love in the darkened world. Let's share the gospel boldly and live lives that reflect the character of Christ. My heart for you in reading these verses is that it reminds you of the hope we have in Jesus' return. It's a reminder to keep your eyes fixed on him, to live with expectation and readiness, and to faithfully proclaim the good news until he comes again in glory. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks for listening.